Have you ever felt that something around you is not normal, yet you cannot explain it? High voltage moments when your thoughts feel controlled, your emotions suddenly change, your sleep becomes a battlefield of strange dreams? Crescent moon, what if I told you that sometimes people are influenced, initiated, or pulled into energies they never consciously chose, and they continue living their lives without ever realizing it? This message is not to create fear, it is to awaken awareness. Because when awareness enters, darkness cannot remain. And today we will uncover the silent signs that many ignore, signs that even children and families must understand and be aware of. There are moments in life when a person begins to feel drawn toward things they never cared about before. It does not happen loudly. It does not announce itself with a clear warning. Instead, it begins like a whisper inside the mind, a symbol that suddenly feels fascinating, a story about hidden powers that seems unusually personal, a desire to explore what once felt uncomfortable or even frightening. This is how influence often begins, not through force but through subtle attraction. High voltage at first, the individual may believe it is simply curiosity. After all, the human mind naturally seeks mystery and deeper meaning. But there is a difference between healthy exploration and an inner pull that feels almost magnetic. When the attraction grows stronger without conscious intention, when it begins to occupy thoughts during quiet moments, when it returns again and again in dreams or random encounters, then awareness becomes necessary. Because what we repeatedly focus on begins to shape our inner world. Children and young people are especially sensitive to this. Their minds are open, imaginative, and searching for identity. If they encounter symbols, stories, or practices that promise secret knowledge or hidden strength, they may feel empowered for a moment. Yet this empowerment is often built on illusion. Real strength is never secretive or fear-based. Real strength grows in the light of understanding, discipline, and compassion. When attraction moves toward darkness or control, it slowly disconnects the person from their natural clarity. Crescent moon, sometimes this pull is reinforced by the environment. Social influences, media, peer pressure, or online content can romanticize hidden practices and present them as gateways to power or uniqueness. The mind begins to believe that being a different or chosen is more valuable than being balanced and grounded. This belief creates a silent shift in priorities. Instead of developing patience, kindness, and wisdom, the person begins chasing sensations, mysteries, and emotional intensity. They may start hiding their interests, feeling misunderstood, or distancing themselves from family guidance. But the deeper truth is this: attraction itself is not the enemy. Attraction is simply energy seeking direction. The real question is whether that direction leads toward clarity or confusion. When we become aware of what draws our attention, we reclaim responsibility for our path. We begin to ask, is this making me more peaceful? Is this strengthening my character? Is this helping me connect with others in a meaningful way? If the answer is no, then the attraction is not serving growth. This is why awareness must come early. Parents, teachers, and guardians must observe with calm attention rather than fear. A child who is drawn to mysterious ideas does not need punishment. They need guidance. They need conversations that ground them in reality and remind them that true power comes from self-mastery, not hidden rituals or secret identities. When awareness replaces unconscious fascination, the spell of influence weakens naturally. There is a sacred dimension of human experience that many people overlook. The world of dreams. When the body rests, the conscious mind loosens its grip and the deeper layers of awareness begin to speak. Dreams are not always random images or meaningless stories. Sometimes they are reflections of emotional tension, unresolved fears, or powerful impressions that the mind has absorbed during waking life. And when certain influences begin to take root within a person, sleep often becomes the first place where these patterns reveal themselves. Crescent moon, a person may start to notice recurring dreams that feel unusually vivid or symbolic. They may see themselves standing in unfamiliar places, surrounded by figures they do not recognize. There may be circles, firelight, shadows moving in silence, or gatherings that feel ritualistic in nature. The strange part is not only the imagery, it is the emotional intensity. These dreams can feel more real than reality itself. The heart may race upon waking. The memory may linger throughout the day. Sometimes there is even a subtle feeling of being a called or a chosen by something unseen. For children, these experiences can be even more confusing. Their imagination is naturally powerful, and their sense of safety is closely tied to the unseen world they create in their mind. When they begin speaking about frightening dreams, repeating similar stories night after night, or developing sudden fears of darkness or sleeping alone, it should never be dismissed as mere fantasy. It is not about assuming something supernatural. It is about recognizing that the mind is processing influences it does not yet understand. Fear grows stronger in silence, but it softens when met with calm presence and guidance. Sometimes recurring dreams also reflect exposure to certain ideas or images during the day. Movies, stories, online content, or conversations can plant seeds that continue to grow in the subconscious. The mind does not always distinguish between reality and symbolic suggestion. When a person repeatedly consumes themes of hidden power, secret gatherings, or mystical initiation, these patterns can naturally appear in dreams. Over time, the dream world may begin shaping waking emotions, creating anxiety, fascination, or even a sense of identity connected to these experiences. This is why grounding practices are essential. Simple actions such as maintaining a regular sleep routine, spending time in natural sunlight, engaging in physical activity, and speaking openly about inner fears can restore balance. Dreams lose their disturbing intensity when the waking mind becomes stable and centered. Children especially benefit from reassurance, storytelling that inspires courage, and environments that feel safe and nurturing. Protection is not only physical, it is emotional and psychological. There is also wisdom in observing dreams without immediately believing them. Not every vivid experience carries a hidden message or spiritual significance. Sometimes the mind simply releases stored impressions. The danger arises when a person begins to interpret every symbol as proof of being special, targeted, or initiated into something mysterious. This belief can slowly detach them from reality and from the simple beauty of everyday life. True awareness means learning to witness inner experiences without becoming trapped by them. When we bring light, routine, and honest conversation into our lives, the shadows that once seemed powerful begin to fade. And in that clarity, we remember that no dream has authority over a mind that is fully awake. Another sign that often goes unnoticed at the beginning is a sudden shift in personality. Human beings naturally evolve over time, but there is a difference between gradual growth and an abrupt change that feels unfamiliar even to the person experiencing it. Someone who was once calm and open may become withdrawn, defensive, or emotionally unpredictable. Small situations may trigger intense reactions. Moments of joy may quickly turn into irritation or sadness. These fluctuations can confuse both the individual and the people around them. High voltage: when the inner world becomes unstable, the mind begins searching for something to hold on to. It may create new identities, new beliefs, or new emotional patterns in an attempt to regain control. This is why personality shifts are often accompanied by secrecy. The person may feel that others will not understand what they are going through. They may begin hiding their thoughts, their activities, or even their online interactions. Over time, this secrecy creates distance from family and friends, and the distance itself deepens the confusion. For children and young people, these changes can be especially concerning. A child who once enjoyed simple play may suddenly lose interest in activities they loved. They may become easily angered, speak harshly without clear reason, or show signs of fear that seem disproportionate to the situation. Sometimes they may express feelings of being watched, misunderstood, or different from everyone else. These experiences should not be met with punishment or judgment. They are signals that the inner balance of the child needs gentle restoration. Herb emotional extremes are also powerful indicators of inner conflict. The mind may swing between feelings of superiority and deep insecurity. between excitement and emptiness. This instability can make a person vulnerable to influences that promise certainty or power. When someone feels lost within themselves, they may cling to ideas that give them a temporary sense of identity, even if those ideas create more fear or isolation in the long run. This is why awareness and guidance are essential during times of psychological transition. It is important to understand that personality shifts do not always mean something mystical or external is happening. Often they reflect stress, unresolved trauma, social pressure, or exposure to environments that overwhelm the nervous system. Yet regardless of the cause, the path back to stability remains the same. Grounding the body through physical movement, regulating sleep, practicing mindful breathing, and maintaining honest communication can gradually restore emotional clarity. When the nervous system relaxes, the mind regains its natural strength. Families and communities play a crucial role in this process. A supportive presence can help the individual feel seen rather than judged. Simple acts, sharing meals together, spending time outdoors, listening without interruption, can rebuild trust and connection. These moments remind the person that they are not alone in their struggle. Real transformation does not come from suppressing emotions, but from learning to observe them without becoming controlled by them. When emotional storms begin to settle, the individual often realizes that what felt like a mysterious change was actually a call to return to inner discipline and self-awareness. The mind that once felt fragmented slowly becomes whole again. And in that wholeness, there is no space left for forces that thrive on confusion. There is another subtle transformation that can take place within a person when inner balance begins to weaken. A growing fascination with power, control, and manipulation. It does not always appear in dramatic ways. Often it begins as a quiet thought. The desire to influence outcomes without effort, to understand people's weaknesses, or to feel superior in situations where one once felt equal. This fascination can feel intoxicating because it promises certainty in a world that often feels unpredictable. Yet what appears as strength on the surface may actually be a sign of deeper insecurity seeking protection. High voltage, when the mind becomes attached to the idea of controlling others or circumstances, compassion slowly fades into the background. Relationships start to feel like strategic games rather than meaningful connections. Words may be used not to communicate truth, but to create reactions. Silence may be used not for reflection, but as a tool to dominate emotional space. Over time, this pattern creates distance between the individual and the natural flow of human warmth. The heart becomes guarded and the mind becomes restless, constantly calculating instead of simply being present. Children and young people can also fall into this pattern without fully understanding what is happening. They may begin to test their ability to influence friends through fear, secrecy, or emotional pressure. They might enjoy the feeling of being able to make someone anxious or dependent. At first, this may seem like harmless experimentation, but if left unaddressed, it can shape their character in ways that are difficult to reverse. This is why guidance must come with patience and wisdom. A child must learn that true respect is never forced, and real leadership never grows from intimidation. The fascination with hidden power often arises when a person feels powerless in their own life. If they struggle with self-worth, uncertainty about the future, or a lack of recognition, they may look for shortcuts to significance. Stories or ideas that promise secret abilities or special influence can seem appealing because they offer an escape from ordinary effort. Yet this escape is temporary. It leads the mind further away from discipline, responsibility, and genuine self-development. Real empowerment is not about controlling others. It is about mastering one's own impulses and fears. Awareness is the turning point in this journey. When a person begins to observe their motives honestly, they can see the difference between influence that inspires and manipulation that weakens. Inspiration uplifts both the giver and the receiver. Manipulation, on the other hand, creates tension and mistrust. It may achieve short-term results, but it damages the deeper foundation of character. This realization can be uncomfortable, yet it is also liberating. Because the moment we stop trying to dominate life, we begin to cooperate with it. Families, teachers, and mentors have an important role in nurturing this understanding. By encouraging empathy, teamwork, and accountability, they help the individual experience the joy of shared growth. Physical activities, creative expression, and service to others can redirect the desire for power into meaningful achievement. When the mind learns that fulfillment comes from contribution rather than control, the need to manipulate naturally dissolves. In the end, the greatest power a human being can possess is the ability to remain centered while the world around them changes. And when this inner mastery is cultivated, no illusion. There comes a stage in inner imbalance where a person slowly begins to withdraw from the very sources that once nourished their spirit. It does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens through small decisions repeated over time. A missed family gathering, a preference for staying alone in a dark room, a growing resistance to conversations that once felt comforting. Isolation can feel peaceful at first because it removes the noise of expectations and responsibilities. Yet if it continues unchecked, it creates a silent distance that weakens emotional resilience. Crescent moon human beings are not designed to grow in complete separation. We learn through connection, through shared laughter, disagreements, physical presence, and the subtle energy of being understood. When someone begins to avoid these interactions, their inner world can become louder than reality. Thoughts that would normally dissolve in healthy dialogue start echoing without challenge. Fear becomes more convincing. Doubt becomes more persistent. Over time, the person may start believing that no one truly understands them, even when support is available. Nature also plays a profound role in maintaining psychological balance. Exposure to sunlight, fresh air, and physical movement regulates the nervous system in ways that modern environments often neglect. When a person spends excessive time indoors, surrounded by artificial light and digital stimulation, their perception of time and space can subtly distort. Sleep patterns shift. Energy levels fluctuate. The mind becomes more vulnerable to anxiety and obsessive thinking. Children who lose regular contact with outdoor play and natural surroundings may become restless, irritable, or emotionally withdrawn without clear explanation. However, another layer of isolation appears in the digital world. Online spaces can provide valuable learning and connection, but they can also trap individuals in echo chambers of fear, conspiracy, or dark fascination. Algorithms tend to show more of what captures attention. And if someone repeatedly engages with content that promotes mystery, hidden threats, or secret identities, their reality can slowly narrow. They begin to see the world through a lens of suspicion rather than curiosity. This shift does not require supernatural influence. It is simply the mind adapting to what it repeatedly consumes. Families and guardians often notice the behavioral signs before the individual recognizes them. Reduced eye contact, minimal participation in shared activities, sudden defensiveness about personal space, or an unusual attachment to late-night routines can all indicate growing withdrawal. Responding with anger or strict control usually deepens the divide. What is needed instead is patient presence, inviting the person back into connection without force. Shared meals, gentle conversations, creative hobbies, or even quiet walks together can slowly rebuild trust. These moments remind the individual that belonging is not something they must earn through secrecy or difference. It is something they already possess. Reconnection also requires personal effort. The individual must learn to step out of comfort zones that feel safe but are actually limiting growth. Joining group activities, practicing mindfulness in open spaces, or setting boundaries with excessive screen time can restore inner equilibrium. When the body moves and the mind engages with real experiences, imagined fears begin to lose their intensity. The world becomes tangible again, and the sense of being trapped within one's own thoughts gradually fades. Because the path back to clarity always begins with one courageous step toward light and human connection. There is a final experience that often arises when a person has traveled too far into confusion without realizing it. The powerful feeling of being a chosen, combined with a deep sense of inner emptiness. On the surface, this feeling can appear uplifting. The mind begins to believe that it has a special purpose, a hidden destiny, or access to knowledge that others cannot understand. This belief can create a temporary sense of excitement and importance. Yet beneath this excitement, there is often a quiet loneliness that refuses to disappear. High voltage, the contradiction, is subtle but significant. If someone truly discovers clarity or awakening, their heart usually becomes lighter, more compassionate, more connected to life. They feel grounded even in uncertainty. But when the feeling of being chosen is mixed with restlessness, superiority, or fear of being misunderstood, it may signal that the mind is constructing an identity to escape deeper insecurity. This identity can become addictive. The person may begin interpreting ordinary events as signs meant only for them. Random coincidences start to feel like messages. Over time, this perspective can distance them from reality and from the simple beauty of shared human experience. Children and young people are particularly vulnerable to this illusion because they are still forming their sense of self. If they begin to believe that they are different in a way that separates them from others, they may stop seeking guidance or companionship. They might withdraw into fantasy, secret thoughts, or online communities that reinforce the idea of special status. What begins as imagination can slowly turn into isolation. This is why reassurance and grounding are essential. A child must learn that being unique does not mean being alone, and having questions does not mean they must invent extraordinary answers. Her inner emptiness also deserves attention without judgment. It is not a weakness, it is a signal. Sometimes it arises when emotional needs have not been met, when recognition has been lacking, or when life feels directionless. Instead of addressing this emptiness through honest reflection and meaningful action, the mind may attempt to cover it with grand narratives about destiny or hidden power. These narratives provide temporary relief but do not heal the underlying longing for connection and purpose. Real fulfillment grows through discipline, creativity, service, and the willingness to engage fully with the present moment. Awareness becomes transformative when a person begins questioning the stories they tell themselves. They may ask, is this belief helping me become kinder, calmer, and more responsible? If the answer is no, then the belief may be an escape rather than a truth. Through mindful observation, meditation, and sincere dialogue with trusted mentors or family members, the illusion of specialness gradually softens. In its place, a quieter confidence begins to emerge, one that does not need validation through mystery or separation. This process is not about rejecting spirituality or deeper meaning. It is about understanding that true awakening does not inflate the ego, it dissolves the need to feel superior. When a person reconnects with ordinary life, studying, working, helping others, appreciating nature, they often discover that purpose was never hidden in secret realms. It was always present in simple acts of awareness and compassion. And in that realization, the emptiness that once demanded extraordinary identity finally finds peace in being fully human.